After struggling week one with our predictions, we bounced back in week two, only having two incorrect. But man, a lot has changed in the NFL since week one.
It's football time.
Alrighty, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the All Around Sports Podcast for sports, everything on the channel. I'm your host, Antonio. Today, we are doing my NFL Week 3 predictions in the NFL. But last week, I went 14-2 after struggling with Week 1 where I had a record of 7-9. We have now bounced back, having a total record of 21-11. But man, a lot has changed. The only two I had wrong was the Steelers against my Hawks, which I picked the Steelers on purpose so that way they would lose. Because whenever I pick the Steelers, whenever it comes to Steelers games, when I've picked it on them or against them, it's gone the other way. But then the other one was the biggest upset of the weekend was the Broncos being taken down by the Indianapolis Colts and Indiana Jones. But lots of stuff has changed. And if you're new on my channel, basically what I do first is I go over my power rankings that I have going into this week, and then I get into my predictions for the week. But I normally try to get my prediction power rankings done in like 2 to 3 minutes of the video. So, but before we get started, if you guys enjoy this video, do me a favor, smash the button down below, subscribe if you haven't already. For now, let's get to the power rankings and then the predictions. Alrighty, so I'm going to show my power rankings up on the screen. Lots of stuff has changed since last time, except for the top two. I have the Falcons at 10, Colts at 9, Bengals at 8, Rams at 7, Buccaneers at 6, Ravens at 5, Chargers at 4, the Packers at 3, the Bills at 2, and then the number one team still remains the Philadelphia Eagles. Some other teams that are on the outside looking in are in the honorable mentions are three NFC West teams that are the Seahawks, Niners, and the Cardinals. Also, a few honorable mentions that I left on the outside are the Lions after rebounding after week one's loss to the Green Bay Packers. Maybe also the Commanders as well, even though they did lose this past week. But I am shocked that Daniel Jones is doing really well with the Indianapolis Colts. That has been by far the biggest shock of the year. Them being 2-0, leading the AFC South. Not only that, the Falcons actually are 1-1 right now. Now, was their win against Minnesota impressive? No. But it's something. A win's a win. Just look at Seahawks for Pete's sake. But lots of stuff came on because I moved the Bengals down because Joe Burrow is now out for a few months, but I'll touch on that later. But that's my power rankings. Now let's get into the predictions. First matchup, you got the Thursday night game. As you got in the AFC East matchup, you got the Miami Dolphins that are 0-2 going on the road to Buffalo to take on the Bills. The Dolphins have mainly been pounded their fair share of times by the Buffalo Bills since Josh Allen has arrived.
You really thought you could stop me? You worthless, weak little nothing. Come out and fight! Or are you too scared? Just what I thought.
He's only lost to the Dolphins twice. One of them was with Ryan Tannehill, and then the other one was with Tua. And Tua's only beaten Josh Allen once. But whenever it comes to this rivalry, the Bills tend to have the Dolphins' number. So, but the Dolphins last week going 0-2 to start the season after losing to Indiana Jones in week 1. They lose to Drake May in week 2 and the New England Patriots. But the Dolphins' offense has not been looking that flashy as far the first 2 weeks go. But the defense primarily has been the main issue, as they cannot stop a dang cold. They're going to be taking on the Buffalo Bills. That is going to be playing in Buffalo, which might be a struggle for Tua, because we all know that whenever he's in the cold, he turns into frozen sushi. But Josh Allen and the Bills have already been on a hot run, as they recently pounded the New York Jets, and as for usual, and owning the rest of their division, it seems like. But the Bills, I still believe they're a legit Super Bowl contender. And with the Chiefs bouncing down to 0-2, the Bills have a massive chance to clinch a number one seed in the AFC. With the Chiefs down as much as they are, with the Chiefs being 0-2, this is their best chance to get the number one seed that they've had in recent years. So I am going to go with the Bills. I believe the Bills are the 10 times better team than Miami. I think the Bills might have a chance of even posting up 70. But I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills to get the win over the Dolphins. And then you got a game between two backup quarterbacks. You got the Jake Browning and the Cincinnati Bengals going on the road to Minneapolis to take on the Vikings. The Bengals, after going 2-0 in their division and also leading the AFC North, they unfortunately got some bad news this week as Joe Burrow's out 3 months with the turf toe surgery. Yeah, it's just bad in Cincinnati right now. But the Bengals, of course, have been looking a lot better. They've never started 2-0 under Zach Taylor before to begin the season, so he might be able to keep his job. So we'll see. But they're going to be taking on the Vikings that struggled in week 2 against the Atlanta Falcons. It's a lot different than when you're not facing the Bears defense. But the Vikings, of course, J.J. McCarthy also went down with an injury. I don't know who the backup's supposed to be. I know that the Bengals have run in a few different guys as well, but I am just a little concerned because we've seen Jake Browning with the Bengals before. We've seen him start a few games, and especially against the Minnesota Vikings back when they were in Cincinnati a few years ago when Joe Burrow was out. So if I'm going off of that experience, I am going to take the Bengals because Jake Browning is still a phenomenal quarterback. He can cover in for Joe Burrow until he returns. He has experience with the football team. So I'm going to go with the Bengals to get the win over the Minnesota Vikings. And then you got a rivalry that dates back all the way to Big Ben and Tom Brady. You got the black and gold incarnation of winners, the Pittsburgh Steelers, looking a little black and blue after last week. Going on the road to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. The Steelers, of course, getting BTA'd by my Seattle Seahawks last week, and Aaron Rodgers did not look so smooth, and nor did DK Metcalf. But the Steelers have been banged up on defense to start out the year. They have like 6 guys on defense injured already, but TJ Watt kind of been a no-show last 2 weeks. But they're going to be taking on the Patriots that tend to have the Steelers number every time they match up with each other. And even with guys like Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, Drake May, they tend to have the Steelers number whenever they come across them. So, I mean, the Patriots, I do believe that they can win this game because they are the more healthy team. I need to see if Aaron Rodgers can rebound after last week, especially losing to Seattle for the second straight time in the last 2 years. One last time against the Jets, and then most recently with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'm going to go with the Patriots. And I know I'm going on a little bit of a run here because last time I picked against the Steelers, they beat the Jets. But the Patriots are different because the New England Patriots, I just think, are better equipped right now to win over the Steelers because of the injuries that are going on with the defense. And even though their injuries have been going on, they have not looked so good on defense. So I'm going to go with the Patriots to get the win over the black and gold. And then you got an AFC South matchup, one of two. You got Indiana Jones and the Colts going on the road to Tennessee to take on the Titans. The Colts last week upsetting the number one team, as of a lot of people predicted, in defense, the Denver Broncos in week 2. That was a big shocker. And now Daniel Jones and Indiana Jones have led this team to a 2-0 start, currently leading the AFC South over Houston. That's a little surprising if you ask me. But the Colts have been looking relatively good. They have caught my attention. I like the way their defense has been looking, especially with the offense. Tyler Warren still has yet to catch his first touchdown of his NFL career, but Tyler Warren's going to be a big factor for this team later on in the future. They're going to be taking on the Tennessee Titans that struggled against the LA Rams. Of course, Cam Ward did score his first career NFL touchdown, but they still lost. But I've said it. I said it a few times. Cam Ward has the weapons. You got Tyler Lockett. You got Calvin Ridley. You got Tony Pollard. Like, what is going on with this offense? This offense isn't clicking as much as I thought it would at the beginning of the year. And I still have them projected to finish in third, and I had the Colts projected to finish in last. That was, of course, before the 2-0 start. But I've been kind of going back and forth because I still don't trust Daniel Jones, but at the same time, I still need to see more from the Titans. I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts because the Colts have been showing me a lot of good glances lately. I believe that win over Denver was a big win that they needed to have. And I think, me personally, I think the Colts are going to be better than the Titans after seeing what they've done, each side has done for the first 2 weeks of the season. So I'm going to go with the Colts to get the win over the Titans. And then you got the other AFC South matchup. You got the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud that are 0-2 right now, going on the road to Duval County to take on the Jags. The Texans lost the game by allowing a touchdown with about under 10 seconds to go in the game. Yeah, it was not great for Houston. They've not been looking so great early on. And they had the game in the bag, but why wouldn't they kick a field goal? Because it was 4th and goal at the 2-yard line, and they didn't take the points. If they would have gone for that field goal, they probably would have been the winners of that game. This is the thing that has frustrated me around different teams in the league. It is a thing that is just unnecessary, and it can cost you the ball game. I just don't understand the move at all. But of course, Texans now are 0-2, and maybe DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud will learn from their errors. They're going to be taking on the Jaguars. The Jaguars, of course, losing to the Cincinnati Bengals, but they, of course, still looked relatively solid. They made a closer game, even though Joe Burrow was out for majority of the time later on. But this game is a bit of a tricky one for me because I've been kind of going back and forth. I like what I saw from the Texans defense from what I saw from that defense on Monday night. But at the same time, I just am not sure about the offensive line in Houston right now because the offensive line is going to be the Titans are going to go as far as the offensive line takes them. And with them just constantly getting pressured over and over, I am growing a little concerned for CJ Stroud. And I am actually going to go with the Jags. I just think the road environment of Jacksonville is going to be a tricky environment for him, especially with the humidity in Florida. Trust me, I'm aware of that. And this is going to be a really tricky game. The players got to stay hydrated as well because whenever you're on a road in a humid and hot environment, you got to be able to hydrate well because you can pass out from dehydration very quickly. Trust me, I've done it a few times. But I'm going to go with the Jaguars to get the win over the Texans. Next up, you got an NFC South matchup. You got the Atlanta Falcons going on the road to Carolina to take on the Panthers. The Falcons winning on the road last week against the Minnesota Vikings. And they were able to come out with that one and, of course, beating down on J.J. McCarthy. But that defense of Atlanta has been looking really solid for the past 2 weeks. Even though they lost week 1 to the Bucs, they still eventually looked better on defense. But that offense has been looking a lot better, and their kicker finally was able to make some field goals after letting go Younghoe Koo. But they're going to be taking on the Panthers that almost won. They barely won against the Cardinals, but of course lost. But the Panthers were, of course, the same team that knocked the Cardinals out of the playoffs last year. But the Falcons, I believe they are the better team going into this matchup. Me personally, I thought the Carolina Panthers were going to be a dark horse team at the beginning of the year, but Hunter Renfrow has been an amazing stud for a few weeks. But I think the Panthers are still waiting to gel a little bit. They're still working on new receivers. There's still new receivers in the building, so I'm going to go with the Falcons because I can trust the Falcons offense and defense more than I can trust Carolina right now. And I'm going to go with the Falcons to get the win over Carolina. And then you got a divisional matchup from last year. You got the LA Rams going on the road to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. Divisional round rematch. The same team that allowed 450-yard rushes against Saquon Barkley last year. I just want to bring that up again. But the Rams getting a massive win on the road against the Tennessee Titans. Starting 2-0 along with the three other teams in the NFC West, but Seattle should be up there, but that's another story for another day. But the Rams, of course, their offense has been looking relatively good. Their defense also still looking relatively solid. Nothing has changed, but hopefully they can fix up their run defense as it was a bad issue last year. They're going to be taking on the Eagles that beat the Rams last year in order to get to the Super Bowl. And the Eagles, of course, recently won against the Kansas City Chiefs again. Than them to 0-2 start. But the Eagles, I just think, are the better team going into this matchup because Saquon and the Eagles, I just think they're a really good team. Even though they have looked relatively close for the first 2 weeks, I think it's just a little scheme that they like to use to make people think that they can beat them. But when it comes time for the playoffs, they're going to start to blow some teams out because it's the Eagles. Because the Eagles are, of course, still looking really good. Andrew Mukuba had his first interception against Travis Kelce. But I'm going to go with the Eagles because I just think the Eagles right now are the better team going into this game. I still need to see if the Rams can top the Eagles in order for them to get up higher in the NFC ranks. But I'm going to go with the Eagles to get the win over the Rams. And then you got the New Jersey Jets going on the road to Tampa to take on the Bucks. The Jets, of course, getting their BTA'd by the Buffalo Bills as per usual whenever they face them.
Here comes my foot.
And then, of course, Justin Fields did go out with an injury, so we're still uncertain on if he's going to play this week as well. But Jeremy taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers had a 9-second touchdown with 9 seconds to go on the clock and won the game. That was just a massive drive from Baker Mayfield and proved why he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I believe this man is a MVP candidate on Baker Mayfield because he has been performing really good. And Iboka, this man has been a stud since arriving in Tampa. I was kind of telling all of you that Iboka was going to be a sneaky stud because he's walking into a really good receiving core with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Cade Otton, Rasheed White, Bucky Irvin. And even with Cade Otton and Tristan Wirfs out, they still won games. And imagine when those two get back onto the field, this team could be possibly a top 3 team in the NFC. And maybe even let alone, maybe might even make a conference championship. Who knows? But I've been high on Tampa Bay for a while, so I'm going to still ride the train. I have the Bucks picked in this game because the Jets will be the Jets as per usual. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers to get the win over the New Jersey Jets. And then you got the Las Vegas Raiders going on the road to Washington to take on the Commanders. The Raiders, of course, losing their Monday night game to the LA Chargers. And some people say Sam Darnold sees ghosts. It looked like Geno Smith on Monday night was seeing some ghosts. and that's the Gino I know from Seattle. But the Raiders, of course, did not look so great, only putting up field goals the entirety of the game. They were just not that clicking on offense than they were in week one. Gino, I believe, has got a lot of work left to do if he is going to help this team to a playoff contender, and especially considering on how tough the AFC West is this year. This is going to be a really tricky task for Pete Carroll and the Raiders. They're going to be taking on the Commanders that lost in the week two matchup against the Green Bay Packers.
Charge!
But I'll talk about them here in a minute. But the Commanders, I just think with Jaden Daniels' high knee sprain, I was going to originally go with the Raiders, of course, before they looked this way on Monday night. So I'm actually going to go with the Commanders. I believe the Commanders right now, even if Jaden Daniels is out, they still got Marcus Mariota in there, who is still a reliable backup. And I just think the Commanders are the better team overall, besides the Raiders. I think the defense of the Raiders still has a lot of growing to do if they are going to compete for a playoff spot. So I'm going to go with the Commanders to get the win over the Raiders. And then you got the Green Bay Packers going on the road to Cleveland, Ohio to take on the Browns. The Packers beating the Commanders last week and rising up from the ground of this NFC North. Now they're the kings of the North right now. Like, the Packers have been an amazing team for the first 2 weeks. I believe they're right now the favorites to win the NFC, and I think that they can personally make a Super Bowl because this is a team that has been looking lights out, has been lights out the entire first half of the season. They've been looking relatively good throughout 2 weeks. Of course, they will have some trickier challenges later on in the year, but they're going to be taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Browns, of course, are a cesspool, as we all know, after getting beat down by 41-10.
Prepare to die. Not today, sir.
Maybe y'all shouldn't have talked that smack to Lamar and the Ravens. I'm just saying. But the Packers, I believe, will get the win regardless because the Packers are the better team in this matchup. And the Browns, yeah, they're just the Browns. But I'm going to go with the Packers to get the win over the Browns. And then you got an AFC West matchup. You got the Denver Broncos going on the road to SoFi to take on the Chargers. The Broncos getting massively upset by the Indianapolis Colts last week. And, of course, it was Daniel Jones that won the game for the Colts. But Bo Nix in the offense and the defense did not look as good as a lot of people had thought. Now, this was their first loss of the season, so I'm not entirely in full-on panic mode with the Broncos. I still believe they got a good chance to win the division, but of course they're going to have to get through the Chargers first. After beating the Chiefs in Brazil, they beat the Raiders on the road in Vegas, getting 2 straight road wins, and that is a good start for the Chargers, especially for Herbert and his team. I've been going back and forth before this Monday night game, but I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think the Chargers, even though Khalil Mack did go down, we don't know the entire status of his injury yet, but I still believe the Chargers are the better team in this matchup. I believe that Denver is going to have a lot of work to do if they're going to prove that they can be that team, especially after that loss into the Colts. That's going to be a big one to bounce back from. So I'm going to have the Chargers get the win over the Broncos. And then, hopefully this should be an easy game for my team. You got the New Orleans Saints going on the road to Seattle to take on the biggest underdogs in the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks. The Saints, of course, making 2 close games against the 2 teams I'm going to mention next, against the Cardinals and the 49ers. They made it last in one possession of those 2 games, having 14 points posted up or 13 against the Arizona Cardinals, and then having 21 points posted up against San Francisco. They're going to be taking on a much better team in the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks last week put the PTA on the Steelers, living you know what. But the Seahawks, their team has been growing a little bit, and I said it's going to take some time for this team to gel. And I believe this week should hopefully be a really good week. The offense was clicking on all cylinders last week, and the defense was looking really, really, really solid. And they've allowed under 20 points in their first two games, and also 100 rushing yards, which is a big deal in Seattle because whenever they've played against the run game, they have always happened to struggle. But that doesn't appear to be the case this year. So I'm of course going to go with the Seattle Seahawks on this one. I think the Saints might possibly make it close as they have done in the last two games. I'm hoping it's not too close because we don't want to give our fans almost a heart attack. But those two games that the Saints had were in New Orleans. This is on the road in a very hard environment in Seattle with the 12th man all going to be there. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks to get the win over the New Orleans Saints. And then you got an NFC West matchup. You got the Arizona Cardinals going on the road to San Fran to take on the red and gold choker jokers, the 49ers. The Cardinals, of course, winning their last game against the Carolina Panthers.
Open up, I say! Open this door, or I'll knock it down!
And having their two wins come by one possession. Their defense looked a lot better than originally, but still there's a lot of questions around Kyler Murray. But they're going to take on the 49ers that they swept last year, and even though it was because of injuries, there's still some times that Purdy could have won the game. But that's stuff for another day. But Purdy's status is still up in the air for this game. We're still not sure if he is going to return for this game or not. He said it was said that he's supposed to be out for at least 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 4, 5 weeks. So we're still not sure if Brock Purdy is going to play. But the offense looked relatively solid. Not a single receiver did have 100 yards receiving, though. So that is a little bit concerning, especially going against a better defense in the Arizona Cardinals that have been looking really good, but have allowed a lot of points. But I've been going back and forth on this match because I know the Niners have gotten lucky on a few occasions, especially against Seattle. But last week they kind of did really good, but their defense did not look as impressive as week one. But I have been very, very on this game because I've been trying to predict it correctly. So I am actually gonna go with the Cardinals because the Cardinals swept them last year. The Cardinals, I believe, right now have the better quarterback. If it's Mac Jones playing, I think they have the better quarterback. But I still believe it will be a closer matchup than anticipated. The Cardinals were able to beat the 49ers on the road last year and, of course, swept them. So I think the Cardinals will once again beat the 49ers. Kyler Murray's been looking solid for the first 2 weeks. But I'm going to go with the Cardinals to get the win over the Niners. I'm just not trusting that defense right now of San Francisco. And then you got possibly an intriguing game. You got the Dallas Cowboys going on the road to Chicago to take on the Bears. The Cowboys making the first overtime game of the season, and of course being against the New York Football Giants, of course. But this Cowboys secondary did not look that impressive. They gave up 450 yards passing, and they almost lost. They were very close to losing this football game. And if they had lost this game, it would have been full on panic mode in Dallas. But the Cowboys, I still need to see if they're going to be competitive against better competition. But they're going to be taking on the Bears that have struggled in the first 2 weeks after allowing a late comeback from the Vikings. They get BTA'd by Ben Johnson's former team, the Detroit Lions. yeah, it's just not good in Chicago right now. This is a team that we thought could be a playoff contender, but as of the first 2 weeks, it's not looking that way. But I'm going to go with the Cowboys on this one. I'm a little hesitant on taking them because of what happened last week. I do believe it'll be a close game, but I'm going to go with the Cowboys to get the win over the Bears. Next up, our Sunday night game, you got the 0-2 Kansas City Chiefs going on the road to New York to take on the Giants. The Chiefs starting their season 0-2 for the first time in a long while.
Really? And what are they doing here? They give me my nightmares. I'm not afraid. Looks like it's your fear they smell. What?
The last time they were 0-2, they wound up missing the playoffs. But of course, still a lot of questions going on with this offense because this offense has not been able to click since Xavier Worthy went down. And Xavier Worthy could possibly be back for this game. We don't know yet. But Travis Kelce last week cost him that game. And yeah, you need to stop hanging out with Taylor Swift and actually practice more on the field, Travis Kelce, or else your team's not making the playoffs. Because that was a horrible performance by Travis Kelce last week. That was terrible. But the Chiefs, I believe, will still have a good chance to make a playoff berth, even though they have started 0-2. They're missing on the New York Giants that allowed a close thriller against the Cowboys in a final score of 40-37 in overtime. Now, I do believe this could be a closer game than a lot of people expect because the Chiefs have not looked that great, but we just saw the Giants go off in Dallas last week. Could that be a similar thing this week against the Kansas City Chiefs? But I mean, the Chiefs are going to have to be really careful on the Giants field because whenever players are going on that field, they've happened to suffer season-ending injuries. So just be warned, Kansas City. I'm still going to go with the Chiefs because the Giants should hopefully be a relatively easy opponent. And I just think that the Chiefs right now are better than the Giants. If the Giants do win this game, I will be surprised if they win this game. I'm going to go with the Chiefs to get the win over the Giants. And then last but not least, you got the Monday night game. You got the Detroit Lions going on the road to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Lions, of course, getting their first win of the season last week against the Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson. But they still have a lot of questions because last time they faced a top tier team, they got smacked around by the Packers.
Now come on, you can't take us all at once. Okay, you took us all at once.
But of course, Sonic and Knuckles did not look so good that game either. But they're taking on the Ravens that have a better team right now. After the Ravens get a bounce back win also against the Browns, they're looking to try to get back into the division race after Joe Burrow went down with an injury. But this game's going to be kind of close. I do believe it hopefully should be close, unlike last time. But I am going to go with the Ravens because the Ravens right now, I believe, look like the better team in this matchup. I still need to see if the Lions can match up with better competition if they're going to be able to compete. So I'm going to go with the Ravens get the win over the Lions. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys think will win each of their games? Let me know in the comments what you guys think down below. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do me a favor, smash the button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, I'll see you on the next one. Ciao for now.